Hello guys, welcome back to another video of No Huddle. Today, as mentioned in the previous video, we're going to be doing a coaching staff draft of college football coaches currently coaching today. Start things out, at head coach, I have Kirby Smart, currently the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. In my opinion, Kirby's going to be the next Nick Saban, or at least he has the blueprint to do so. You got to remember, Kirby Smart comes from the Alabama blueprint. He was on those Saban teams, the start of the dynasty. He was the defensive coordinator. Back in 2009, when they went undefeated, Kirby had one of the best defenses of the 2000s decade. 2 years later, in 2011, he coached probably the best defense of the decade. I think they gave up, it was like 108, 109 points on the season. So I'm going to go Kirby Smart. Just came off a natty in 2021 with Georgia. Obviously on the recruiting trail, he's one or two pretty much every year. Right now, Saban's number one. Georgia's right behind him at number 2. And another thing I forgot to mention at the top of the video, this draft is for a 10-year outlook. Like 5 to 10-year outlook, we'll do that. So I was going to go Nick Saban, but I don't know how much longer he's going to be coaching, so I decided to go with Kirby Smart. Moving on to offense. At offensive coordinator, I'm going to go with Lincoln Riley here. QB whisperer of college football. He just coached the Heisman winner, Caleb Williams. He's also coached Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. Over the past 5 or 6 seasons, I'd say Oklahoma and now USC have had probably a top 3, top 2 offense every single season. 2019 is probably the only exception because of LSU. But other than that, their offenses have all been spectacular. So I'm going to go offensive coordinator Lincoln Riley as my lead analyst on offense. So maybe my guy up in the booth. I'm going to go Chip Kelly here. Chip Kelly is a big X's and O's guy. He doesn't really like to recruit. He never really has recruited well. He's recruited at a good pace, a good amount. He gets his guys. He might not get the most talented or 5-star player, but he's going to get his guys. But when it comes to coaching on the field, there's really no one better than Chip Kelly. So I think having him up in the booth, being my lead analyst, especially during a game week, game planning for an opponent, finding a weakness, something he does very well. My O-line coach, I'm going to go Mario Cristobal, currently the head coach at Miami. He coached at Oregon for 4 seasons. But some people do not realize that he was on Alabama's staff under Nick Saban from 2013 to 2016 as the offensive line coach. You go back and look at some of the players that he sent to the NFL. Sent guys like Cam Robinson, first round. They had Ryan Kelly at center. He went on to be a really good player for the Colts. So I'm going to go Mario Cristobal O-line. A tough second choice for O-line coach was Sharon Moore. He's coaching Michigan right now, offensive line. And Michigan's probably had the best offensive line in the country these past 2 seasons. Moving on, wide receiver coach. This one I only had one nominee. I didn't even have a second. I'm going to go Brian Hartline here. Now, I have mixed feelings on Brian Hartline. Yes, Ohio State has been producing wide receivers at the best, probably in the country. Them in Alabama, you can say LSU, put them in there. But Brian Hartline's just a beast recruiter. Like, he's crazy on the recruiting trail. Really no one better at the position. But my one knock I will have on Brian Hartline, he recruits all these 5-star guys, right? He gets constant 5 stars, high 4-star players every single season, 2 or 3 in each class. So how good of a developer is he, especially in a pass-heavy offense when you have 3 receivers on the field at all times, sometimes 4? It's just really hard to guard all 4. But with that being said, I think he's the best wide receiver coach, and I think he's worthy of a head coaching job or even an offensive coordinator job. I'm going to go Brian Hartline at wide receiver. I want my team to have the best pass catchers, best route runners in the country, so I'm going to go with Hartline there. Moving on to running back, we have Del McGee. For my diehard Georgia fans, you know exactly who this is. Del McGee's the running back coach at Georgia right now. This year in 2022, this is probably the worst running back room Georgia's had in quite some time. Not because of the players, but just overall running game. They don't have the O-line that you think Georgia would have these past couple of seasons. But with that being said, Del McGee is one of the best recruiters on the trail, even though he's currently missing out on Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes is a 5-star running back in the 2023 class. His dad, I should say, is a Georgia legend. He played running back at Georgia. So missing out on him was a pretty big deal. With that being said, the running back room is young, very talented. And he went across the country this year and got Roderick Roberson from San Diego, California, Lincoln High School. But Del McGee has turned players to the NFL nonstop. DeAndre Swift, James Cook. Who was the other running back last year? I cannot think of. I'm drawing a blank here. Zamir White. Drawing a blank there. Zamir White was a starter last year. Him and James Cook rotated in the backfield. I'm going to go Del McGee. I just think he's the best overall running back coach in college football right now. At tight end, I have two nominees here. Really 50-50 on this. My first one was Kevin Wilson, tight end coach at Ohio State. I believe he just took a head coaching job, though. I'm going to go Kevin Wilson here. Or Brian Ferentz, the son of Kirk Ferentz on Iowa. Iowa's offense is probably bottom 3 in college football right now. But that doesn't take away from the tight end development that they've had over the past several seasons. Brian Ferentz is a huge part in that. Even though he may not be coaching them directly, but he has a huge say in how things are done around there in that tight end room. You think of guys like George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. Just spectacular tight ends coming out year after year. Kevin Wilson does a really good job, though, of getting his tight ends involved in the passing game. Also, on the recruiting trail, he does an excellent job. I'm going to go Kevin Wilson over Ferentz here. So, my second Ohio State coach on the staff. So, I have 2 Georgia and 2 Ohio State on the offensive staff. Now, switching over to defense. My defensive coordinator. This was a very tough decision because there's so many former defensive coordinators either as head coaches now or they've been downgraded to like linebackers coach or corner coach, safety coach. But I'm going to go with Brent Venables. He's currently the head coach at Oklahoma. Their defense was not very good this year. Overall, Oklahoma was not very good this year. With that being said, you go back and look at his track record at Clemson under Dabo Swinney or his first stint with Oklahoma under Bob Stoops. Brent Venables was coaching top 2, top 3 defenses year after year. The amount of guys he's put into the NFL. I believe he's coached like the nickel star position mainly in linebacker. And you look at Clemson, like guys like Isaiah Simmons come to mind. He recruited him, developed him. Now he's one of the best safeties in the NFL. So I'm going to go Brent Venables at defense. I think he runs a 4-2-5 right now, which is something I really like. The way college football is going, spread offenses, up-tempo, 4-2-5 is a really good defense. My lead analyst, now here I'm going to go two defensive analysts. I only had one on offense, one guy up in the booth. But I'm going to go one on-the-field analyst, like a co-defensive coordinator, and then I'm going to have a guy up in the booth. My on-field analyst is Dan Lanning, head coach at Oregon right now. Oregon's defense was pretty terrible this year. They were bottom 10 in pass defense. But a lot of that is Dan Lanning trying to run a scheme that he ran at Georgia and that he saw Alabama run in his time there with guys who just aren't up to par with the scheme or are just not able to run it. And that may not be the case, who knows. Maybe it's not having Kirby Smart leading the way. I'm going to go Dan Lanning here. He was the defensive coordinator at Georgia from 2019 to 2021. He coached 3 of the best defenses, probably the last 10 seasons in college football. Last year he helped produce, 7 draft picks, most of them in the first round. Guys like Nakobe Dean, Channing Tindall, and Quay Walker at the linebacker position, which was the main focus for him. And then up in the booth, I'm going to go Dave Aranda. He's the head coach at Baylor right now. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Dave Aranda was the defensive coordinator at LSU for a couple years, and their defenses got overlooked because of Alabama's success in the SEC. But when Alabama and LSU played, it was really whoever had more rushing yards, and that was usually Alabama. But LSU's defense did not let Alabama do anything in those games. Like, those games were like 14-10, 21-17, like really low scoring games. And Dave Aranda, he's not the best recruiter. That's why I have him as an analyst. Brent Venables and Dan Lanning, two of the best recruiters in college football on the defensive side right now. So putting Dave Aranda in like that third hole, just focus on game planning on the field, how we going to run our defense, get us prepared for game day. I think he'll fit in perfectly in that role. Moving to D-line coach, this was a unanimous decision. Really no thought in this one whatsoever. I'm going to go Larry Johnson at Ohio State. When you talk about development, recruiting, sending guys to the NFL, Larry Johnson's at the top of the list for D linemen. Think of the Bosa brothers. You got Chase Young. Jack Sawyer was a high 5-star recruit in 2021. JT Tuamaloa, 5-star in 2021. He went out and got him from the state of Washington. He had one of the best defensive games we've ever seen against Penn State this past season. Larry Johnson was the lead recruiter for all of those guys. Lead developer for all those guys as well. He did just miss out on Keon Keeley to Alabama about an hour or so ago as I record this. But he's still in it for Mateo Uiagalelei, 5-star edge rusher from St. John Bosco. So he's going to go and get his guys year after year. But on the field, even if Ohio State's defense has some holes, they're going to have a pass rush against Zach Harrison right now. He's probably going to be a pretty high draft pick just because of ceiling and what he's learned under Larry Johnson. So I'm going to go Larry at D-line. Linebacker, I'm going to go Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz was the defensive coordinator at Miami. When they had the turnover chain, everyone thought the U was back. The U was back on one side of the ball. They played defense. They forced turnovers. They got after the quarterback. Manny Diaz is a great recruiter as well when he wants to be. I think we're seeing that at Penn State right now, like a shift in how Penn State recruits. James Franklin and company have really upped their game, and Manny Diaz is a huge part of that. He's currently calling the plays on defense and coaching the linebackers. He also has a huge say in how the secondary plays. That's why we see so many interceptions. Guys like Joey Porter, also going to the NFL, projected first-round pick. Manny Diaz fit perfectly for linebacker coach. At corner, I'm going to go Dante Williams here. A lot of people probably don't know who this is, being in the West Coast. But out in California, Dante Williams has been one of the best recruiters year after year. He is currently coaching at USC, coaching the corners and safeties. He coached Oregon back in 2019, and wherever he's been, his track record shows that he knows how to get turnovers and coach technique very, very well. His corners also know how to tackle. As I say that, I'm thinking about Utah versus USC and how many missed tackles USC had, so that's probably not a good example. But USC led college football in interceptions this year. A couple years ago at Oregon, they led the nation in interceptions. So he has a big track record of getting turnovers, developing DBs, sending them to the NFL. And as I mentioned, he's one of the best recruiters in college football, not just the West Coast. He went out and got 5-star corner Damani Jackson last season. Even after a coaching change, when Damani took a visit to Alabama, many people thought he was going to decommit just to commit to Alabama, but he ended up decommitting from USC. Dante Williams got him back on campus and kept the 5-star home. That's just one of many occasions. Dante Williams has won on the recruiting trail against big SEC opponents. He was also one of the lead recruiters for Kayvon Thibodeau at Oregon. Not many people saw that coming, a 5-star California kid with Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, many others in his recruitment. USC was another one, right down the street pretty much. And he got him to go to Oregon. So wherever he's gone, players have followed him. The talent's been there, and the on-field performance has been there as well. Safety. Now my safety coach is Phil Parker from Iowa. And that's probably probably not the most flashy name out there. I understand that. But when you turn on Iowa, there's one thing that you notice every single game that you watch them. Their defense is very, very good. Their run defense may not be good, but their linebackers and pass coverage, and then all of their defensive backs are excellent. They know how to turn the ball over. They send tons and tons of players to the NFL year after year. Phil Parker's a big part in that. So I'm going Phil Parker at safety. My special teams coach, my last on-field guy, I'm going to go Jim Harbaugh for my special teams coach. There's a toss-up between him and Kirk Ferentz. I'm going to Jim Harbaugh because I'm also going to have my special teams coach be my lead assistant to the head coach. Jim Harbaugh is one of the best head coaches in college football right now. He's a very good game manager at Michigan. We've seen that the last 2 seasons. So I'm going to go Jim Harbaugh on special teams. His special teams are always very good. He went out and got Jake Moody, who's probably the best kicker in college football right now. So that finishes out the on-field staff. Now, my recruiting. My lead recruiting director, I'm going to go Marshall Malchow. He was at Texas A&M for a couple years. He was the leader, I guess the planner for the 2022 recruiting class that the Aggies brought in, the highest recruiting class of all time. He's currently at Oregon. That's why I'm very familiar with him. But it's just the job he does behind the scenes. Like, he knows how to build a staff. He knows how to schedule visits. He knows how to, I guess, manage the season within the off season, if that makes sense. Like right now, as I record this, it's December 12th, right? There's a lot going on. You have in-home visits. You have official visits on campus. You have bowl prep. Signing day is just around the corner in 9 days. There's just a lot going on. And it just seems wherever he's been, he knows how to get it done. Especially with the transfer portal. He's a very important piece to what's going on behind the scenes. You want things run right. So I'm going to go Marshall Malchow there. Now my lead player personnel. This may be a little biased, but I think it's the best decision I can make. Because behind the scenes, Don Johnson at Oregon, also with Marshall Malchow, these two are a force behind the scenes in what they do. When you talk to recruits on visits, or after they commit, like a month later, on why they're here or what they love so much about the staff, Don Johnson's brought up almost every time. Now back over the summer, or early spring, Don Johnson, he was out for some time, a couple months after a medical problem. And you could really see, like, just a setback that had with Oregon and the recruiting over the summer. Like, he wasn't there for their official visits. A lot of these recruits coming back this fall want to go back. Don Johnson saying, hey, I wasn't here over the summer. Come back. And a lot of these guys are committing right after their visits, posting pictures with Don Johnson, or he's taking an in-home visit right now in December. He puts the time in like none other, so that's why I'm going to go with him as my lead recruiting operator. So that's going to do it for my staff. Later on, maybe in like a week or so, I'm going to be doing like a player draft of guys from this season. Guys to fit my scheme, my system, how I want to play. Best player at each position that I think would bring value to my team. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for listening in. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.